Hello and welcome to a brand new Parry's Pickup. Thanks very much for joining us today. So, as always, 4 more games to talk about this week. And first of all, I have to find the games. Where did I put them? I put them right there. Okay, so the first game we're going to talk about this week is Porky Pig's Haunted Holiday. I had to remind myself of the title there. Porky Pig's Haunted Holiday. This is a great little platformer for Super Nintendo. Great visual style here, lovely animation, lovely graphics. It's very striking. If you just to see images of this game, I think it would immediately spark your interest, which is what it did with me. And then what actually sold the game to me, strangely enough, was the music. The music in this game is really weird. Very atmospheric, very creepy. Obviously going with the Haunted Holiday theme. You see, the storyline of this game is Porky Pig was reading some holiday brochures in bed when he went to sleep and had a nightmare, and all his thoughts about all the places he could go on holiday turned into nightmares. So the soundtrack has a very nightmarish quality, which is not really what you'd expect from a Looney Tunes game. The whole experience is very surreal, I have to say. It's got a very peculiar atmosphere. Thankfully, the actual platforming and the gameplay hold up really well. It's a fairly straightforward platformer. It doesn't do things particularly different than most. In terms of visual quality and such, I maybe put this in a similar ballpark to Mickey Mania. Because not just because of the rotating tree part of the first level, which is an awful lot like the rotating tower in the what was that? The second level of Mickey Mania. I can't remember what it was called now. So it does share that same kind of really nice animated graphical quality with Mickey Mania. Gameplay wise, going back to that briefly, you do have an attack as Porky, but you very rarely use it. You can pick up a basket of fruit, and once you've picked that up you can throw apples until you lose that power up, and then you can't. It's not like you have so many apples or anything. It's just if you get hit and lose the power up, then you will lose it for good. So actually my first playthrough of this, which, you know, I've actually played through this game, as hard as it is to believe. it's actually, and that is a massive recommendation, because I've got a lot of games, I don't always finish them, but this one I just had to play through to the end. I think that's partly because of its really well thought out difficulty level. It's not too hard, it's not too easy. This game was criticised at the time for being slightly too easy and too short. It took me 2 hours to finish this game. You know, it wasn't plain sailing. I did run into a few problems here and there, but nothing that was ever frustrating. It's incredibly well designed like that, I find. Also, Porky himself controls really well, and also this game was criticised at the time for its controls being too good. Making it too easy to do certain things like grab hold of swinging vines or things like that. And I don't think you should really criticise a game for having good controls. This game is a reasonable challenge. I'm sure if you were to play through it multiple times it would get easier, as I had in while I was capturing this gameplay footage for the most part, but it's still a good challenge. And I think this is a bit of an overlooked game, in all honesty. Beautiful looking game, plays really well, great difficulty curve, and an atmosphere like no other. So do spend a little bit of time on this game. Check it out. If you like looking at gameplay footage, I highly recommend trying this one if you like platformers, like I do. The next game, I can't really say too much about. This was a pickup from CEX, and I was surprised to see a game for 3DS with Mario in it for so cheap. This was just £6, and Puzzle & Dragons is a popular puzzle game obviously, and this came out quite a while ago now. Can't remember, it was maybe a year or so ago. It's only £6, as I say, and It's okay. I can't say much about it yet, but I do like puzzle games, as you'll see with the next pickup. So I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time getting used to this game because it's not as straightforward as something like Tetris. But there's two games in one here. There are RPG elements in there, and it's a little bit, looks about something like Candy Crush or something. It's those sort of match 3 games basically. So I showed some footage here, and it should give you a better idea of what the game's like if you've not heard of it before. But it's meant to be really fun, and so I'm definitely going to give that a go for that price. So, I mentioned puzzle games. Tetris. I've never owned this version of Tetris, and this to many is considered the classic, maybe the first version of Tetris they ever played. I'm trying to think which was CDI Tetris. There you go, that was the first one I played, believe it or not. But a lot of people associate Tetris with the Game Boy, but also a lot of people associate it with the NES. So I managed to get this in-box version, and that's nice because being a little bit of a Tetris collector, it's such a classic entry into the series, I thought it'd be nice to have this in a box. I got it for under £15, I think, all included, and it's a nice condition copy of the game. You also get the instruction book with it, which is in really good quality, and as we were just flicking through this the other day, it actually has some Tetris strategies in there. I was wondering, you know, how much detail you could go into in a Tetris instruction manual, but back in the day when instruction manuals were a thing, they went the extra mile. And the cartridge, of course. So this version of Tetris, what sets it aside from the others, what makes it worth playing? Well, it's Tetris in its purest form. Really, it's not like modern Tetris in the fact that you have that extra few seconds to move a piece if it's starting to end up in the wrong place. If you mess up, you know, you have to get out of the problem yourself. And yes, in that respect, it might not be as user-friendly to most who are familiar with modern Tetris and being able to manipulate the pieces just after they've dropped. But I think what it is about this is it makes Tetris, it makes a version of Tetris as pure Tetris, and I don't know, it's just really good. It's hard to find the words to describe this Tetris experience. There's 3 different music choices you can select, 2 different game modes, Type A and Type B. In terms of music, there's some good variety in the tracks. There's a couple of more faster paced ones, and then there's a slower paced one if you feel like you want a more relaxing Tetris session. Yeah, it's really good, and you get a little animation if you get above a certain high score. You get a little animation with a rocket taking off, and that's a nice little addition because you're kind of itching to get. The fact it gives you something to aim for when you get a high score, that's really nice, and that's in the other versions of Tetris, like Tetris DX for the Game Boy, which is another fine version of Tetris. Yeah, this is just pure Tetris, and this is how a lot of the pro players play it. They play a version of NES Tetris. So, and something also I learned about it, which I didn't know, was that the pieces in this game are entirely random. There's no formula behind what pieces you're going to get next, so it's randomized. So you could be aiming to get a long bar, for instance, to go down the side to make your Tetris, and you just might not get it for the longest time. So it does make you play slightly differently, but it is one of the most satisfying versions of Tetris. Everything comes together, the aesthetic's very nice, it's Tetris without the bells and whistles, but still a very well put together, solid package. And I could harp on about how good this is, how good of an experience it is playing this all day. But yeah, I can highly recommend Tetris on the NES. But I assume a lot of you out there have either played that version or got that version yourself. But very happy to add it to the collection. Lastly, another game I picked up from CX. This was just £5. It's Sims 3. Now, I was very excited about this because I wanted a home console version of Sims 3. I played the PS3 version of it, which I thought was pretty good, you know, and I expected this to be the same as that, but have, you know, pointing controls. So you could basically use your Wii Remote to point to the thing you want the sim to do, and the thing would go over there. And I thought that just seemed... I wasn't expecting what I got with this game. First of all, the immediately most jarring thing about this experience is you can move the sim. You are actually in control of the sim's movements, and you can only interact with objects when your sim is actually close enough to that object. So that was off-putting at first. The game seems to struggle on the Wii. It's like you're playing on a computer which is underpowered, because you can hear the disk drive chugging constantly. Also, the game stops at certain points to load. It only really happens when you've moved, because your sim house is now in a whole neighbourhood. I've never played proper PC Sims 3, and this seems to be quite close to that experience. Actually, maybe even closer than the PS3 Xbox 360 version. It's a very interesting move to make, to try and make a game which was developed for a high-end PC run on, you know, the least powerful console, home console of its generation. And so it's admirable what the developers have attempted to do here, but it does result in a few jarring moments where you'll be wandering around the town, which is weird to begin with for me because I'm most familiar with Sims 1 and 2. And then you get back to your house. It has to just briefly load up all the objects in your house and load up your house. It's not too long for it to be frustrating, but yeah, it's a little bit jarring there. But yeah, it will take a lot of use. It take you probably a long time to get used to the camera as well. But once you know where the buttons are, it does slowly become easier. But there's always that constant chugging in the background. The game feels like it's buckling under the pressure. It's always playable. It never goes to the point where it's unplayable. But it's like you're playing it on a low-end computer. Even the graphics, as okay as they are a little rough, but that's because I'm playing on a Wii and the resolution isn't particularly high. I'm just going to pull up the Wii Remote to demonstrate some of these controls now. So you can speed up time with the C button, so remember that. You can always do that, but you have to keep it held down. You can cancel action, so if you ask a sim to do a certain task and you want him to stop, you have to press the B button. That's fairly straightforward. To look around, you have to press A and Z together and move the stick, because this is a nunchuck game, of course. I didn't expect it to be, because you're moving your sim, you need the nunchuck to move him around. I think minus lets you see your sim's needs. I must point out the sim's needs and wants, they're slightly more forgiving in this game. They don't go down as fast as in other Sims games I've played. Yeah, and basically every button on this controller has got a function, so it's actually quite nice that it's all there, but you really have to learn what every button does. You press, I think, 1 to jump into the build and buy mode. You can access your phone, because it took me a little while because I didn't realise you didn't have to buy a phone. The Sim has a mobile phone. I think that's one of the arrow buttons on the D-pad there. Yeah, just get your head around that. You look over some of the shortcomings in the performance of the game, and it's actually pretty solid, strangely enough. But I do find a lot of the new things I'm not familiar with to be a little bit jarring, like the you actually get to do stuff at work, which is strange. I'm working as a police officer, and actually the police station is opposite my house. Still a carpool comes to pick my character up to take him there, but then you just appear outside it anyway. But once you go into work, you know your working hours, but within that time you can choose the tasks you do in your job. I'm not sure yet, because this game has a lot of layers to it, exactly how that benefits you, whether you can learn skills on the job and things. I really want, there's little things about learning skills I'm not sure of either, because I really wanted to cook a meal, but I don't seem to be capable to cook proper meals yet. I think I need to find a cookery book, but I think I need to go to the library to do that. And so as I play more, I'm kind of realising there's an awful lot of depth to Sims 3. But having never played the Sims 3 on the PC, Mac, whatever, I'm not so familiar with the game. But I do think this seems to be a lot more in depth than the 360 and PS3 versions, unless I was missing a lot of stuff when I played them. So it's worth trying, especially for the price I got for £5. What was initially a jarring experience where I held my hands up and said, I don't want to play this game anymore, I don't like this game, what's going on here? And to having just played it to record some gameplay footage for this video, I'm starting to actually like it. It does have its frustrations, and I wish things were a little bit different. There's a little bit too much to learn in terms of controls, I would say, but then what it's doing is at least that's offering you a lot of options in the game, which is what makes the game actually pretty good. The amount of options and how it's not as cut back as you would expect it to be. But there is certain things like goals and points, and it is a little bit overwhelming at first compared to the most straightforward Sims game, the original, which is the one I like the best. So, but yeah, this is good. This is good. I didn't think I'd be saying that in this video, but just be prepared for it to be a little bit different than you expect. Hopefully this video should help with that. At least if you've been thinking about this game, now you know a little bit more about what you're going to get before you go into it. And that's it. No more games to talk about this week, but last but not least, we do have one other thing we can mention. Now, I think I said it on last time's Lemmings video, but I've bought myself a Game Gear, not just any Game Gear, it's a yellow Game Gear. And this was something that I've been wanting for a very long time, and I decided to bite the bullet and get it. Found it on eBay, a French seller. He actually modded this particular system to have I think a DS backlight in it. So you'll see it, hopefully be able to see it on the camera there. I'm playing Sega Game Pack 4-in-1 here, which is great because it has the rally game on it that I really liked when I used to play on my friend's Game Gear. Yeah, so I've not had a working Game Gear ever, really. Briefly I had one. But Game Gear is not something I really grew up with. But it's got great music on this one. But as you can see, it's got a nice bright screen. Oh, I just love that. Anyway, we've got to turn it off. It's great playing on a Game Gear. It's just really comfortable. I like how big and chunky it is. It feels great in the hands. I like the concave buttons on the Game Gear. I think this has got an improved battery life because of its screen modification. It does take 6 AA's. They've not run out on me yet, but I haven't played it for hours on end. So we'll see how long these batteries last, but of course you can play it by the power adapter as well. Of course it's not portable anymore. Incredibly light when it's not got its batteries in. But this is, I think the Game Gear is a great machine. And it's got some great games in it, and of course it has a wonderful quality. What was funny is when I gave this to my friend Gareth the other day to have a look at, he said, it's amazing that it's such a big machine with such a small screen. I never really thought about that before, but I can kind of see what he's saying. It is rather large, and its screen isn't particularly big, if you compare it to a Switch, for instance. But at the time when this came out, it's competition with the Game Boy, and I think this is leagues ahead. If only they sorted out the battery consumption, and maybe if the light worked a bit better, and maybe if the whole build lasted, because Game Gears are notorious not for lasting, and that's why I wanted to get one that had been all redone, refitted, recapped, and had the screen replaced. So this is it. For me, this is the ultimate Game Gear. Yellow's my favourite colour, and I couldn't be more happy to finally have one. So I just thought I'd mention that in the video. I don't usually talk about hardware, but that one I was quite excited about getting. So that's it for this episode of Parry's Pickups. Hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been informative for you. Maybe you learnt about a few games you've not thought about before, or maybe there's games in there that you've been thinking about and weren't sure about, but hopefully from this video you've been able to maybe make up your mind whether you want to give them a go or not. So thanks very much for watching, and do, while you're on the channel, check out some of our other videos. Please subscribe, because these videos regularly come every week. Sorry, as do Tom Plays every Tuesday, which is a live stream video, usually live. Sometimes I do pre-record them, but if I can, I do them live on a Tuesday evening. So you can come in, you can chat with me, we can talk about games, which is what this channel's all about, really. So yeah, there's loads of videos, thousands of videos on this channel, so I'm sure you'll find something that you enjoy. So just please take a moment to maybe write a comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. So until I see you next time, it's goodbye and game on.